Good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to the Mary and Sam Show. We're delighted to be here with you, and we have a great show for you today. We've been thinking about something that's been on my mind. Why do you hate your in-laws? Why can't we get along with them? And it just spans so many different races and cultures and societies. It's not just to one group of people. It seems like everywhere I go,
it's universal.
It's universal, right?
Yeah.
What do you think, Mary?
Like you said, it's such a sensitive subject, and I think so many of people do have problems with getting along.
Yeah.
And most of the time is the
mother-in-law.
Yeah. So do you hate your mother-in-law?
Well, I can't really say that on TV because she might be watching this. No, actually, my mother-in-law is pretty nice. She's a really nice lady, which makes it easy. However, it wasn't always like that. I didn't like her in the beginning because she was always telling me what to do. And then after a while, then that just dissipated and her and I get along just fine. She doesn't tell me what to do, and I don't tell her what to do.
I think, but don't you think most of the times, most of the problems is with the ladies and with their husband's, mom?
Yeah, exactly. So that would be you. Not me.
I think that's more common than the other way around. And here's my take on it, the psychological part of it. I think it's naturally, like my mom, maybe this is this is my psychological analysis. Like she respects you or adores you more.
Yeah.
Because she thinks
because I'm lovable. That's hard to deny.
Well, besides that, I'm lovable too. What's wrong with me?
No, you're not.
It's because deep down she really doesn't want her daughter to get divorced. And then it might be still taboo that if my daughter gets a divorce, it's a bad thing. Versus if your mom thought that you're going to get a divorce, it may not be such a bad thing for you because you're a guy.
Yeah.
Do you think that has something to do with it? Because I've noticed that especially in our Afghani culture, they favor man more. And as a result, they favor their son-in-laws more versus their daughter-in-laws.
I would agree. I think that there is something to that because oftentimes, they perceive that a man should be more carefree about his wife than the other way around because she's going to be an old maid.
Yeah.
Right? Nobody wants to marry her. There's definitely something to it. I can't quite put it on there, but it seems to me like men have a longer shelf life and don't have an expiration date.
Oh, really? Is that what you think?
Yeah.
Think again, baby.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking right because, you guys know what I'm talking about. I'm not the only one. The audience, they all know it. They all, everybody's going,
yeah,
he's right.
We'll see.
Well, so that's the thing is that we have a longer shelf life.
Because
and
you don't do a whole lot. You preserve yourself.
Right. Exactly. So we preserve our energy for the long haul. It also, Mary, has something else to do with this.
I know what you're getting at.
Is that you guys have a limited time to have babies.
Right, yeah.
Okay, that's what it boils down to.
That's yes.
So
biologically, yes,
yeah,
that's
the biological clock there is, and it's ticking, whether you admit it or not. So for any of you that is not married and you're getting close to 40, I think it really starts to tick a lot more after 35, 40, 45.
Now I think it's almost 50 because there's a lot of people wait to get married and have kids. But whether there is a natural pressure on women to have babies because of that natural clock. That's true because after a certain age, although nowadays with the science and technology you can do so much more, but you feel under the pressure.
Yeah, so that's why your mother-in-law hates you.
No,
because her son could get anybody pregnant.
And I think also because it's the competition over the love for the man.
Yeah.
There's a big competition because it's it's the struggle that one person tries to show that I have got power, you can be the person in our life now taking over. Like, it's like the struggle of that hierarchy of that power, you know.
Yeah,
so,
well, she's raised the boy, right? And he's
Yeah.
naturally like a mama's boy. Most of us are. There's very few that aren't. Well, yeah, I admit to that. I admit to that. I'm saying like I was, and I am. Well, not anymore, but I was. That said, when the wife comes into the relationship, now you're separating her son
Right.
from her,
Right.
and that's naturally a strong bond.
right,
I want to see you
with my son.
with Aris and his wife at some point and see how this plays out.
Well, I guess we'll have to do a show at that time.
That's
right.
right,
I
and
don't
then
have
we'll
to
get your daughter-in-law
see-
here to speak up when you're not around.
Well, you know, when we first got married, I think that was such a big struggle for me because I was young and I didn't know that why do we have to have this struggle, because I wanted peace amongst everybody and I just struggled. I didn't understand that. And then it got to a certain point that I started to really understand, is like, okay, so it's just because she loves him so much, she just can't bear the thought of sharing that love. All of a sudden, this new person, new energy comes to everyone's life, and it's like she's the center of attention, you know. And then so it's deep down, it's that fear that I'm gonna lose that love for my son. That's
Yeah.
what it comes down to.
Right, and for me, it was really because I was raised by my grandmother. That was my grandmother, and not my mom.
Right.
In our relationship, she had raised me, so she was the one that I was the closest to. She had the hardest time when I got married, not really my mother. So, you know, just for the record.
Yes. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So and I think that, you know, I think I struggled in that department because I was really close with her, but then yet I felt this resentment from her, and
Yeah.
I wish I wanted to change that, but no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't change that. But I think once I start to develop that understanding, then I start to calm down. It's like, it's not about the competition. It's about she really, I mean, imagine as a mother, you give so much love and you raise your son or your child, and then all of a sudden he's not there anymore. So I
Right.
think that feeling, that void feeling in their heart is like, and then who are you going to blame? So you're going to blame whoever's taking that person away from you.
Yeah, and this just reminded me of a great thing, because my friend, Mr. Kai Balakan, he told me something. He said he always wanted a daughter, and I said, well, what do you mean? He goes, well,
And he doesn't have a daughter.
he doesn't have a daughter.
Oh.
He has two wonderful sons. And he said, you know, a son will leave you, but a daughter will bring somebody home.
Yeah.
So, and I thought about that, and he's true. It is true, because usually the son will go in our culture to the wife's side of the family,
Right.
right? And so, and the daughter will bring a man into the family. So it's kind of a play on that. So that's why usually, at least it's been my experience, that like my mother-in-law, she really welcomed me into the family.
And for those of you that are struggling to get along with your mother-in-law or father-in-law, your in-laws period, and I have a few tips that have worked for me, and then people that I coach that really works well. And I know this is a very sensitive subject. And after all, we live with, you know, I live with my mother-in-law, so I'm so glad that we do. Tip number one is that, you know, be okay with some criticism, because whatever they're criticizing you, it's not directly coming at you.
Right.
They're just sometimes not okay with themselves, the place, the position they're in. So they just have to say things that might be hurtful, but don't take it personal, because it's not really about you. It's about them. When you really develop that understanding, that heartfelt understanding, then you tend to not take it so personal. That's one thing. Second thing is, you have to be flexible. When you live with somebody, or when you're part of that environment with your in-laws, you can be really rigid and say, this is my way or the highway. You have to be a little bit flexible. Because if you're not flexible, then the relationship between your husband and your mother-in-law are going to go bad. And then when that goes bad, your husband is not going to be happy, and as a result he's going to hold resentment towards you, and then your relationship is going to go sour because of that. So I think you're the glue to the family to keep the peace and the love. So that's tip number 2. Tip number 3 is that you need to understand the bottom line for families to be together is to love each other, is to have peace, is to have good experiences. And I think often we so forget about that. We get caught up in the moment of having a higher expectation, having this drama, talking about who did to what. But in the end, you know what? All we want is validation, respect. Every individual wants. So you know what? In the end, it comes down to people are fighting, battling to feel important, validated, respected. And if you, as an individual, to learn not to be so attached to that and give it to that individual, then you're going to learn to live in a peaceful environment.
That's right.
Those are my 3 tips.
That's how you unlock the keys to a successful relationship with your mother-in-law, especially if you're the wife in the relationship with your mother-in-law. You need to follow just having that understanding and be kind.
Right.
Be nice. Be understanding. It'll work out.
What are some of the tips that you can give? Because you're a guy, from your perspective. So if your wife comes to you and complains about certain things, and what are some of the steps you've taken to create that peace and togetherness between families and not make things go worse?
Well, I think for me, it's always been about communication. I think that what I found out earlier on in life was how to deal with this is to actually listen and understand, see where you're coming from and where my mom was coming from, especially my grandmother. I realized that if I started to defend you to her, she would get mad. And if I started to defend her with you, you would be even further mad.
Yep.
So what I decided that early on, it was not to defend you in front of her or the other way, is really to take your side when you guys aren't around. I'm giving to you, this is like gold right here, boys. This is gold.
What I could say.
No, listen to me. Let me finish. Because it's when you decide to take the other side in front of your mother or your wife, that means you don't really love me at all. And that's exactly what they were looking for, was that validation and love. Therefore, if I started to defend my grandmother in front of Mary, Mary would be upset. And if I defended Mary in front of my grandmother, she would be upset. So I realized early on, hey, don't defend, just agree.
Just listen.
And then listen. Yeah, oftentimes, guys, just listen, because really women, they don't really care what you think. They just want you to listen and go, I get it. That wasn't right.
And you know what? I have to tell you that most of the time when you just listened to me and you validated me, you said, you know what? That's right. That wasn't right. She shouldn't have done that. I agree with you. That by itself just diffused that whole drama.
That's right.
And we didn't have to do anything afterwards. That was just you just being there listening to me. That was it.
That got me a lot of bonus points.
That's right.
With everybody.
Yeah. And the worst situation was in the past, that to take sides, and you were trying to help, but it wasn't helping. It was actually making the situation worse, because like, wait a minute, why are you trying to put peace? But that was like, no, you're taking so-and-so's side.
Right,
Someone else's side.
Didn't make sense.
Yeah.
So hopefully you found these tips helpful in your relationship with your in-laws. And until next time.
All right. Thank you.